take a moment to summarize where we are and how we got here since the weekend. Neo-Nazis, KKK, white supremacists, white nationalists gather for a rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. They yell, they march with torches, they chant racist slogans. A young woman, an American citizen, is killed in broad daylight in an attack like the ones we've seen ISIS carry out. A car plows into people who are trying to stand up against hate. Today we learn more about how the President of the United States sees those events.
What about the alt-left that came charging at him? Excuse me. What about the alt-left that came charging at the, as you say, the alt-right? Do they have any semblance of guilt?
Let
me ask you this. What about the fact they came charging with clubs in their hands, swinging clubs? Do they have any problem? I think they do. So, as far as I'm concerned, that was a horrible, horrible day. Wait a minute. I'm not finished. I'm not finished, fake news. That was a horrible day. I will tell you something. I watched those very closely, much more closely than you people watched it. And you have, you had a group on one side that was bad, and you had a group on the other side that was also very violent. And nobody wants to say that, but I'll say it right now. You had a group on the other side that came charging in without a permit, and they were very, very violent.
Mitt Romney just tweeted, quote, "No, not the same. One side is racist, bigoted, Nazi. The other opposes racism and bigotry, morally different universes." Joining me now is Dr. Cornel West, professor of philosophy at Harvard University's Divinity School and professor emeritus at Princeton. Dr. West, thanks for being with us again tonight. You were there. You were there Friday night. You were there Saturday. When you hear the President of the United States saying that the people who were marching with torches, saying Jews will not replace us, and saying blood, chanting Nazi slogans, blood and soil, that there were good people in there who just were there because they were upset about the statue. What do you think?
Well, Brother Anderson, I'm not surprised, though. Donald Trump, he's a neo-fascist. He's a right-wing gangster, and therefore I don't have expectations for him. Those of us who were in that church were trying to keep alive prophetic witness, to accent love and justice, the humanity of all of us, no matter what sexual orientation, race, national identity, and what have you. The sad thing is we're dealing with the life and death of the American democratic experiment. And what I mean by that is the spiritual blackout, the eclipse of honesty and integrity, moral meltdown where there's no space for prophetic witness of love and justice. And it's not a matter of just a president. I have no expectations from Donald Trump. I've been a black man in America for 64 years. Donald Trump is not different. I've been dealing with white supremacists. I've been dealing with neo-fascists and so forth and so on. I can discern them. My concern is neo-fascism is a rule of big money, big military adventurism, escalating wealth inequality, the collapse of public life, and the scapegoating of the most vulnerable, of immigrants and of Muslims and Arabs and Jews and black people and gays and lesbians and bisexuals and trans folk. And so the real challenge is the relative silence of those Americans who ought to be part of an anti-fascist coalition. We should have had thousands and thousands of folk in Charlottesville. We should have had thousands and thousands bearing witness against the neo-fascists. They were emboldened. Yes, they've been emboldened by Donald Trump. They know he has neo-fascist sensibilities. The problem is, look at corporate America. They've been relatively silent. We just had two recent brothers break loose. Where is the anti-fascist, the anti-racist orientation of corporate? Where is the church? Where is the synagogue? Where are the mosques? Where are our fellow citizens who ought to occupy that prophetic space of love and justice and put a smile on the face of Martin Luther King Jr., Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, of Dorothy Day and Grace Lee Boggs and Edward Said, all of those who said we must be honest and tell the truth about those who will use arbitrary power for wealth inequality, xenophobia, and the military adventurism in various parts of the world. The American empire can devour American democracy. It's only the people awakened who can do it. Donald Trump must not be fetishized. He doesn't have magical powers. He has too much power as a president, but he can be pushed out. And by pushed out, I mean impeachment, a variety, and the Republican Party can be rendered accountable for its silence. The Democratic Party has to deal with its relative silences in regard to some of the things Brother Charles was talking about in regard to mass incarceration tied to Wall Street and so forth and so on. That's the kind of revival, moral and spiritual revival that we need, and that's my tradition, as you know, Brother Anderson. That's what William Barber and the others are trying to talk about.
Do you see that happening? I mean, do you see an event like this, and it's not just this event, it's what we have seen so far from this president, and what we are likely to see in the future, given the fact that he's 71 years old and unlikely to change. Do you see that revival happening?
I absolutely see it happening. Sister Heather was standing right next to the 20 of us who were almost crushed like the cockroaches that the neo-Nazis view us to be. She, along with the anarchists, along with the anti-fascists, were protecting us. She is a freedom fighter. The memory of her sacrifice, the 19 who are in jail, that can generate an awakening, but it's got to be a moral and spiritual awakening. It can't just be revenge. It can't just be talk about power. It's got to be talking about what is right, what is moral, what is just, and what is morally consistent. That means there's going to be a critique of the establishment of both parties. There's going to be a critique of our churches, our mosques, our synagogues, our universities, all of those comfortable middle-class folk who remain spectators or don't want to intervene into the system. And most importantly, our young people are thirsty and they're hungry for precisely this kind of awakening. And I see it escalating, and in that sense, I see it as hope in motion. So I'm not in any way disempowered by the neo-fascist sensibilities of Donald Trump. I've been seeing it all my life in a variety of different places. I'm more emboldened by the folk who are waking up and shattering the silence, shattering the complacency, shattering the kind of distance and detachment from engagement and struggle around love and justice. And I don't care whether you're secular, agnostic, atheistic, Christian like myself, Muslim, Buddhist like bell hooks. We can go on and on. We can come together. We can make a difference. This is the moment for that.
Dr. Cornel West, I appreciate you being with us. Thank you. Much more ahead tonight. We'll have more reaction to what the president said today, what it means for this White House, this country. And in case you missed it, we'll hear a large portion of Donald Trump in his own words after a quick break.